We're back here on a Friday evening. We're both now back on campus here at Quinnipiac. NBA stuff, obviously, Super Bowl in a little over a week. So we're going to get our NBA stuff in now before the Super Bowl stuff. We'll start off talking about probably the two best rookies so far, or at least two of the top few rookies Tyrese Haliburton of the Sacramento Kings, and obviously Lamelo Ball. Um, I mean, who do you think's been better so far? Who do you think has more potential in the future? Who's better at what? Who's in the better situation? I mean, career trajectories, all that. I mean, what's your first take?
Yeah, so I mean, looking at the two, they're so I was looking at their stats, and they basically have the same stats. I mean, just looking at basic stats, they both average 11 points a game. Lamelo is 11 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and then Tyrese is 11 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. So they're basically averaging the same stats. Their PERs basically the exact same. Tyrese is 16.8, and Lamelo is 16.1. So they're both having, I mean, PER, that's player efficiency rating. So they're both pretty good in that, especially for rookies. Lamelo's he's not starting. I don't think Tyrese Haliburton's starting either, but he's playing 28 minutes a game, and Lamelo's only playing 24. He's playing in crunch time while Lamelo's not, and that could also be because of Tyrese Haliburton's defense, which Lamelo doesn't have. But he's clearly playing. He's playing 4 minutes more, but he's playing in crunch time a lot. He's in their closing lineup for the Kings, and just looking at through Tyrese has played 15 games and Lamelo has played 18 games. So again, basically the same. I would say just looking at from what I've seen, I'd say Tyrese has definitely played better. I think Lamelo, and we both said this, we both picked Lamelo for Rookie of the Year, but I think we both picked it because we saw Lamelo having like maybe the better stats, but like the more highlight plays and more hype clearly about him. I mean, every single night he plays, there's always highlights about it, him playing. But I think so far, I think Halliburton's been better. I mean, he can handle the ball like Lamelo can, but he can also play off the ball. He's much more efficient, especially from three. I think Lamelo's 30% and Halliburton I think was 45%. He can play defense, which Lamelo can't. He's in those closing lineups, like I said. So he's doing a lot more in the game than Lamelo is. Uh, but again, like I said, I think Lamelo would probably still win Rookie of the Year because of the highlights and maybe the stats at the end of the year. But right now, I'd say Halliburton's just playing better overall.
Yeah, no, I'm completely in agreement here. Halliburton and Lamelo Ball, they're around the same. I mean, they've again, both of them don't start. They both play about 24 to 28 minutes. But yeah, Halliburton's a better overall player as of right now, at least. I would still say Lamelo probably has the higher potential, but I mean that's in theory because if he's going to reach his ceiling, Lamelo has to play defense to an elite level, and he'll probably have to shoot the three ball at an elite level as well. Halliburton's been a better 3-point shooter on more attempts so far in the year, or at least on average, than Lamelo by far. I mean, because of defense, 3-point shooting, you can play Lamelo. I mean, sorry, you can play Halliburton at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game. Lamelo, not as much. I'm gonna say Halliburton's definitely had the better start. Uh, who do I think is gonna have the better, career itself? I mean, it really depends on. Honestly, I mean, you could legitimately argue like neither. They're both in pretty bad situations. Obviously, Charlotte's looking like it might get better. I guess same with Sacramento. If you look at like De'Aaron Fox, who's obviously a really good point guard, maybe but those situations get better. But just if you look at their track record historically, I'm not holding out hope that either of these situations are championship winning. So it's going to be tough for both of them really to get into competitive basketball, at least in the playoffs. We'll see what happens there, but yeah, I mean, so far I definitely take Halliburton's performance over Lamelo's. We'll see who's the better player, in 10 years. It'll be interesting. And again, it's really tough to judge their careers off of you know 20 games, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at the draft, Lamelo was picked third, Tyrese was picked 12th, and there really was no like clear cut number one pick this year. I mean, like that's what the discussion was. It was those first three picks could have been anyone, or even someone who was picked later could have fallen into that top three. But I it definitely seemed like, I mean, Haliburton, for him to drop to 12, and I think we talked about this when the draft happened, but for him to drop to 12 it was a pretty big drop off. I mean, you had teams, possibly the Knicks, the Suns that could have taken him, maybe even the Wizards, even though they'd already traded for Westbrook and had Beal, you could still take a Haliburton. He's definitely, I mean, I thought the Suns were a perfect fit for him just because even though you had CP3 and Devin Booker, CP3 is only going to be there for like 2 years. And he's this year, I know he's not shooting as much, but he's definitely not playing that well this year, at least in like his scoring output and just the way that he's looking. But just to have him again, he's not someone who needs the ball, which I think Lamelo like needs the ball in order to impact the game. It seems like he's a great passer, which helps. Like he's not just a guy who's going to score and not do much else. He's a great passer and he's a pretty good rebounder. I mean, he's like 6'8" or whatever he is, but he's a pretty good rebounder for being a point guard. And I think Halliburton, when looking at it, and again, this was the stuff that coming out of college that they said that he could play really good defense. People said he really couldn't shoot. I think if he just takes his shots at the right times and doesn't take that many, he's a good shooter. Like he's showing, he's not shooting that much, but he's making them when he does, which I think is perfect. And playing with a guy like Fox, who I'm not sure if you think he's like going to be like a top 20 player. I'd say he's in that, 30 range, maybe 40 range, something like that. I don't know if he'll ever get to top 20, which could hold back, that team's potential if your best players in like the 30 range. Even though I think Halliburton's going to be amazing, I don't think he's going to be like a top 20 player, like a guy who's putting up like 25 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds,
I mean,
someone
I
like
think
him.
if Halliburton gets to, I think Halliburton's potential is like a top 30 player.
Yeah, I
That
think
like
like
25 to 40 range, around where De'Aaron Fox probably is right now.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what
if
I
you
think too.
if you could have them both, like the 30th best player in the league, if they're both around there, maybe they both have. If you get both of them to have career years in the same year, you could compete for. I mean, you could definitely make the playoffs as like a 4 seed or a 3 seed, but
Yeah.
I mean that's at least a couple years down the road. We'll see. They're gonna need more than just Halliburton and Fox for sure. I mean,
if Marvin Bagley were to pan out, then that'd be amazing. But I mean that situation kind of seems like
it
it's
seems
over
like
with.
if Bagley's panning out, it's probably not going to be in Sacramento. I would
Yeah,
assume at least. I mean,
yeah,
we'll see though. But yeah, I mean, I'm not holding hope out for the Kings. So I mean, my thing about Lamelo and Halliburton is it feels like if Lamelo wants to like win a championship or reach his potential, he's probably going to have to like be the guy or a number one on a championship team. Just his play style, it feels like that. Maybe he could be
yeah,
a two, like a Robin, but I mean, he's not going to be a three, or he's not going to be like a distant two. He's have to be like a 1A or 1B. Halliburton, I mean, realistically, could the way his play style is just he's not going to be ball dominant for the most part, especially if he knows his role. He could be a three on a team. He could be a four. He could be a five. I mean, you know, what I'm saying is, I mean, clearly Lamelo is a little bit more ball dominant. He needs the ball to be effective and at his best. Halliburton definitely doesn't have to be. I mean, Halliburton, I think right now he's shooting like 45% from three. He's probably not going to shoot 45% for three, in his career, but again, like he can clearly shoot the ball, and he's not the type where he's going to just take pull up threes like a Curry or anything like that. But if you get Halliburton playing smart and playing efficiently, and he develops his overall game more, I mean, he's going to be, again, he's going to be like a top 30 player that like there's no potential way having Halliburton on your team could damage your team compared to a Lamelo, where if the fit's not there and the chemistry is not there, then he's probably a detriment to your team rather than a success.
yeah. I agree. I mean, if you were to put Halliburton on like any team in the NBA, it'd make their team better. Just because you're right, he doesn't need the ball to improve a team. Like I said, the defense, just his willingness to move without the ball and get open and get other people open when he does have the ball, and it helps a lot. While with Lamelo, if you were to put him on like all 30 teams, like with Halliburton, some teams would maybe work, like bad teams that just don't have someone who's willing to control the ball or someone like that. While other teams, he just wouldn't fit at all. Like if you go to like the Warriors or something like that, I don't think he'd fit at all with that team. So yeah, I would definitely say like Halliburton seems like more of a winning player. Like if the team around him is better, then if it's like a good team, like a playoff team, maybe like a 5, 6 seed. If you were to put him on that team, he can make him a 3, 4 seed. Maybe it's like a team that can actually compete for like a Western Conference Finals appearance or something like that. While Lamelo, like unless he improves his shooting ability, which like we said, he's shooting 30% from three. I think he's shooting 40% from the field. If he just improves that by 5% each, 45% from the field, 35 from three, and he's just better with the ball. I think he's averaging 3 turnovers in 24 minutes. That's not great. And the more minutes he plays, those turnovers are going to go up. And he's also not playing great defense. That's part of the reason why he's not in those crunch time lineups. So again, he's a lot more to improve, but his ceiling's definitely higher than Halliburton's is. But if he could reach that ceiling, then there's no doubt that he's going to be most likely a top 20 player. If he really reaches that ceiling, it could be like top 10, possibly. I think probably top 20. But I would say right now, Halliburton's probably higher. But again, the ceiling is much higher for LaMelo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Lamelo and Tyrese, I mean, they're going to be definitely competing with maybe a couple others for Rookie of the Year. They're probably the two favorites right now. We'll see who wins that. I mean, we'll see who has a better career, but we can move on to Bradley Beal, and we'll have some trade scenarios. I don't know if you've already crafted up some trade scenarios if you want to talk specific teams. I mean, I know one team I was specifically thinking of, and I mean, this has been a team, probably like the front runner team, when it comes to Bradley Beal trade scenarios for the past, ever since people have thought about having him traded. The Denver Nuggets, I mean, it seems like they have an ideal package for Bradley Beal. I mean, you can give up a couple young players, Michael Porter Jr., Bol. I mean, you can throw a bunch of first round picks. If you threw Porter Jr., Bol, and I don't know, 3 first round picks, maybe more, maybe between 2 to 4 first round picks. I mean, would the Wizards do that? I know they'd at least think about it. It really would depend on what other teams are able to offer. But I mean, what are you thinking for Beal? And because clearly, I mean, everybody has seen on the internet. I mean, if you even just take a second to go on Twitter, like there's all the photos of Beal just looking distraught. I mean, he's basically like looking like Deshaun Watson and on the Texans at this point. I mean, it looks like it's over for Beal and the Wizards. I guess at this point, I mean, I don't know if you would call the Westbrook trade a failure or not. This is kind of off topic, but because he was basically a 1-to-1 swap for Wall, but clearly it's not working out there. And I don't even think it's necessarily Westbrook's fault, but the team's not working out. It's probably not going to make the playoffs. Beal clearly wants out. And I think if you're the Wizards, it's time to trade Beal for the most you can get, because you don't want to end up losing him for nothing or losing him for like 70 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things before Bradley Beal. I mean, the team, you're right. I mean, the trade, like, I think if they had John Wall, they may not be this bad. I think they're 3-11, but they'd be bad. It's not like they'd make the playoffs with John Wall. So I can't really fault the trade. I think it was a move that you had to make for a guy who hadn't played in 2 years, while someone who was coming off making All NBA third team. So I think it's a move you had to make. But that aside, I mean, with Bradley Beal, I mean, the Nuggets, I've heard the Nuggets too. I'm not sure if they do it now. I think your scenario you made there, I think, was too much. I don't think they'd give up that much for Bradley Beal. I mean, I don't know how much you think of Bradley Beal, but like, he's definitely a really good player. He's definitely a top 20 player, but he's more towards the 20 than he is like the 10. So, and again, he's averaging 35 points this year. I think he's shooting 48% from the field and 36% from three. I mean, those are really good numbers, especially for the amount of shots that he's taking. And if you just look at the games that he's played recently, I think he's put up like 50 in almost every game. So
what if we said it's Porter, Bol, and your next 2 first round picks unprotected? Is that too much to you? Because to me, I mean, if you're the Nuggets, if it's your own first two first round picks for the next 2 years, those are probably at the very least 20. I mean,
yeah, no, I think that I think it's a trade that look, that may be the trade that like is something like that. I just don't know. At least looking from the Nugget side, I don't know if Porter, like, I would say I value Porter more than Beal, just because of the ceiling that Porter has. I think we know what Bradley Beal is. He's a guy who can put up a lot of points. He's not doing much else. He's not like assisting the ball or rebounding the ball. He's playing okay defense, but he could really score. I mean, that's what he does, and he clearly would make your team better. But if you could figure out Porter defensively, then his ceiling is a top 20 player. He could put up 25 points easy, shoot 40% from three, 50%. He'd be one of the best scorers in the NBA. and he's 6'8", small forward doing that. I don't know. I just think if he can fix his defense just a little bit to the point where it's decent, to where the offense just overweighs it by that much, I think Porter, again, that's something that they'd have to talk about. If they don't think that they could change him, then I guess you would make the trade, because having Murray, Beal, and Jokic with the rest of that team, that's a really good team. Are you going to a championship? Yeah, probably not. Maybe, but probably not. But
Jokic, Murray, and Beal. I
I mean,
mean,
Murray hasn't played like he was last year,
no. I mean, he's not. He's
which is
not.
that's always the problem with him. Sometimes he's really good, and other times he just disappears. If he could play really good, then yes, I think they probably could. But even still, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on if you think the big three of Jokic, Murray, and Beal gets you past the Lakers and the Clippers. To me, without Beal, I don't think the Nuggets are on the tier of the Clippers and the Lakers right now. I know the
No,
Nuggets just beat the Clippers, but I mean, the Clippers basically lost that series. I mean, yeah, the Nuggets won it, but the Clippers also lost it. So,
yeah,
I'm not really putting any stock into it. The Nuggets just don't have enough talent to compete with them really right now. I mean, obviously Jokic is a leading MVP candidate. I mean, there's a chance he might win it, but yeah, I mean, Murray is just. I mean, in the postseason, he looked like he might have been able to be a top 20 player again, like probably 20 at his ceiling. But right now, he's not going to be an all star. He's not going to be what people hoped he could be. So we'll see on that. Porter. I mean, Porter is definitely interesting because yes, I mean he could probably be, if he reached his ceiling, a top 10 player in the league.
yeah.
He's that good offensively, and if he was able to become above average defensively, I mean he'd be
Even just average.
even just average. But yeah, I mean he has the frame to be great defensively, so there's no excuses really. But again, you never. I mean, he's played basketball for a long time. And not that we've seen a bunch of him or anything, but I'm not sure if the defensive thing's if it's gonna come or not. So that's something, the Nuggets, like you said, the Nuggets front office is gonna have to deal with. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Porter, Bowl, and 2 first-round picks is too much. I think depending on what other teams offer, obviously it might be the best that they can offer. I mean, do you have any other teams in mind that would be wanting to trade?
Yeah. I mean, I've been hearing one team a lot, and that's the Heat, which I think is a pretty viable option, I'd say. I mean, they have pieces to trade, and they've always been looking to get. I know they got Jimmy Butler, but they've always been looking to get someone, like whether it was Westbrook, Harden, um,
They
Beal
even look like
now.
potentially get like Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, yeah, they're always linked to someone. It seemed like they were going to get Chris Paul, yeah, when he was traded to OKC. But I would say if it's not the Nuggets, which again I've heard the Heat more than the Nuggets, but I'd say the Heat would probably be the best option. Again, they'd have to part ways with Tyler Hero, which I don't know how you think about him. I don't think he's like that good. I think he's good on like a really good team that has other players, but if he's going to be put on a team where he's one of like the top 3 or 4 players, then your team's not going to be that good.
I mean,
Um,
I think at best he's like a 4 on a championship winning team. So
yeah, he's a guy who could be a starter or come off the bench and play starter minutes, and he can give you like 14, 15 points a night. But that's
if I have to trade
that's
that
really
to
all he's
get
going to do.
Beal, it's something you just have to trade to get Beal. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. You'd have to trade, definitely. I would say I think the Heat would. I don't know exactly what they'd give up, but I would say Hero's definitely in that. A couple first round picks, maybe 2, something like that, and then another player, maybe 2 more players. So whatever that trade package is, if I'm the Heat and I don't have to give up, again, you're not going to give up Bam, you're not going to give up Butler. So I'd say Hero is probably the guy you have to give up, and then if I'm the Heat, I'm okay with doing that.
100. I mean, if I'm the Heat, I'm definitely okay with
Yeah.
giving up Hero, and even if you wanted to say 3 or 4 first-round picks, I would probably do that in a heartbeat for Beal. I mean, it makes you, again, a big three of Butler, Beal, and Adebayo. Is that going to win you a championship definitively? No, but we saw what the Heat did last year. If you had Beal on that team, and you actually had your players healthy for the finals, that's probably a 7-game series, and there's a very solid chance that you actually win that series. So, I mean, looking at the roster, I'd be, other than Hero though. Like, I mean, if you're the Nuggets, is there anybody else that I'm dying to trade for? Like, not really. I mean, I guess Hero, you know, Achua. I mean, you probably don't want like a Dragic, really.
No, he's on a 1-year contract anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like a Hero and Achua, 2 to 3 first round picks. To me, and this is if the Nuggets are offering it. If the Nuggets do offer Bol, Porter, and 2 first round picks, I mean, even 1 or 0 at that point, I'd probably take it over the Heat deal. That's just because I don't even necessarily value first round picks that much. But I mean, if you're a competing team, you throw them in anyways. But yeah, to me, like I value Porter much more than like a Hero and Achua and however many picks you want to throw in. But again, I mean, that's just going to come down to are the Nuggets willing to do it. And, if you are the Wizards and your best offer is, we'll just say Hero and 3 first round picks. I mean, at that point, I might as well just keep Beal unless he's
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
point where it's like he just completely wants out. And there's no, unless you like holds out like an Anthony Davis or something like that where he just doesn't play. But
Well, one thing, I mean, he is the one who signed the contract extension, knowing that the team wasn't going to be that good. So in situations like this, I can't really say like everyone like feels bad for Beal that he's stuck in the situation. But I mean, he's the one who signed there. He was going to be a free agent. I think after this year, he was going to be a free agent. Now he signed for another 2 years. So I can't really like I have to blame him somewhat because he knew what he was getting into. It's like when Melo re-signed with the Knicks, like he knew that they weren't going to be that good, and he could have signed with someone else. Like I'm pretty sure like the Cavs wanted him. I think it's when LeBron went back to the Cavs and stuff like that. So like other teams wanted him, and they were going to pay him maybe not the same money the Knicks were, but close enough to where he could have been on a way better team, and then we could be talking about Melo differently. But I would say Beal put himself in this situation, so I can't feel that bad for him. But I mean, for teams, I would say those two teams are probably, unless there's just someone else. I mean, people are saying the Lakers. I don't think they could do that, just with what they'd give up, but also, I mean, I have to look at their cap situation. I'm not really sure what it is, but it'd probably be somewhat tough. I mean, Beal's making, I think it's 34 million this year, and then 37 next year. So that's a lot of money to take on, but I would say between, let's say, the Nuggets and the Heat are the two teams that offer trades. I would definitely take the Nuggets offer. I just don't know if the Nuggets actually will, because again, if you add Bradley Beal, are you going to win a championship? That depends on Murray playing up to his potential, and then Jokic still playing at an MVP type level. If that all can happen, then they definitely can, but I just don't know if it will. And then if you're the Heat, I think you have to make the trade if you're the Heat, because Beal is better than Hero, clearly. So I think you'd have to if you're the Heat. I just don't know if the Wizards would take that deal. So I think it's honestly pretty tough to trade them.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I actually wanted to, if you're done with Beal, I wanted to talk about another person that was potentially being traded, Lonzo Ball. Um, I mean, I just at least Lonzo Ball in the Pelicans right now. His there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of young players in that team. His fit's not really there. Uh, I know there's some potential suitors. I know they were talking about the Warriors, potentially the Clippers, potentially trading for him. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on a Lonzo trade. If the Pelicans should trade Lonzo, if there's a team specifically that fits Lonzo well. For me, I mean, I'm looking at the Clippers. I think he'd be somebody you'd look to pick up in the trade deadline. I'm not exactly sure what you'd have to give up. If it's anything significant, I probably wouldn't. But the Clippers. I mean, at this point, you're trying to get whatever you really can to push the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are definitely the favorites right now, at least in my mind. So, picking up Alonzo, who can be a core part of your rotation. If I have to trade, I mean, you don't really necessarily have a future to trade, but if you could land a trade for somebody like Lonzo, that would definitely help you against the Lakers in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you view Lonzo as a player. I'm not that high on him. I never was. And you could see it through his play. I mean, his shot's definitely better, but it's still not great. It's not like he's shooting like lights out or anything like that. You're right. I think he's done in New Orleans. Like, I just don't think there's just no fit there. I don't know if that's when Van Gundy came in and he was just kind of the player that was left out, of the, not like he's leaving out of the starting lineup or rotation or anything like that, but he's just the guy who's just doesn't have a place to go. Um, or if this was just destined to happen just because he hasn't improved. I mean, you're the number 2 pick in the draft and you have not improved at all. And he's still really good defensively for a guard, and he can still pass the ball. He's great vision, and he's a guy who can rebound the ball too, but he just hasn't done anything offensively. Whether it's him not willing to shoot or he just doesn't have confidence, I'm not sure. It does seem like he just doesn't seem like he doesn't like shooting, like scoring the ball, I should say, which that's clearly a problem because, you're the point guard. I mean, most point guards score nowadays. They don't just pass the ball. So I think a team like the Clippers would be a great fit because he's like that's a perfect fit for him because he's not going to have to score. He's not going to have to worry about it. He could just get assist, rebound, play really, really good defense. They have a really good defensive team there, anyways. Obviously, you have Kawhi and Paul George who could score the ball. You have Ibaka who could also score. So I think that'd be a great fit. I'm not really sure what a trade package would be. Like, I'm not even really sure what he's worth. Not saying he's worth nothing, but I just don't know what it would even be. I haven't looked into it or just wouldn't know what he's worth to a team. So I get, yeah, I mean, I've heard the Clippers too, so I'd say they're probably the best team, but I don't know, maybe another team tries to take him on as a reclamation project and see if he can actually be, like a pretty good player.
Yeah, I heard a couple Warriors rumors out there, but again, I'm not too sure on what the value would be on Lonzo. If I'm the Clippers or the Warriors, I mean, if I had picks as the Clippers, maybe I'd throw them like a couple, maybe I'd throw them like a first, but I mean, I'm not giving anything up significant, so clearly. But yeah, I mean, Lonzo's shooting like 38, 39% from the field, and he's shooting 30% from three. So I know last year his percentages were much better last year, and he was much better from three last year. If he can, again, like if he was traded to the Clippers and he can just be a solid role player, he can pass the ball, see the court very well, play solid defense. He doesn't have to worry about necessarily scoring. And if he can just make the open shots and keep the defense honest about him on the perimeter, I mean, he can easily be, a sixth best player on a championship winning team, maybe even more than that, like a fifth best. But yeah, I mean, we'll see on Lonzo. But I mean, as far as he's done on the Pelicans, it looks like they want to give Lewis and Nikhil Alexander Walker more playing time. So we'll see if he gets traded or not. But yeah. As far as trades are concerned, I don't really have anybody else really of significance. I know JJ Redick was also brought up in some more trade suggestions. It just seems like it's an age thing. He just doesn't fit with the
I think
trajectory of the teams.
possibly a package. I mean, just kind of when you said JJ Redick, I mean, maybe I don't think the Clippers would do this, but like Pat Bev and a first round pick for Lonzo and JJ Redick. I don't know if they do that, but that's definitely something because Beverly and Ball are kind of the same. I mean, they're really good defensively, even though Pat Bev, it's kind of skewed a little bit just because of some of the stuff. But you get a shooter and you get Ball, you could kind of fill that role of Beverly. I don't think that's the worst trade in the world, but I just don't know if they do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they do that. I'm not even sure if the Clippers, I'm not looking at their draft stock right now, but I don't even know if they have first round picks to give up.
Yeah, I mean, they traded a lot of them for Paul George. I mean, they traded basically for Kawhi and Paul George. So I think they gave up I think it was 4 first round picks or something, 5 first round picks, something like that.
Yeah, I know PJ Tucker's been brought up in some trade talks to, I mean, contending teams in the Heat and the Nets. I mean, we'll see on that. I'm not going to give it too much time, but I mean, do you want to get into the All Star picks or?
Yeah, I think one more name, which I don't know if it's been out there yet, but I think it's just one you saw like from the Harden trade. I think Drummond. I kind of be surprised if he wasn't traded. Maybe they keep him, but if you have Allen there, then you just assume Allen's going to be the starter. You could get off Drummond's money, which I think is $28 million, something like that. I know he's going to be a free agent, so whatever team trades for him, you're going to get a good amount, but not maybe as much because he's going to be a free agent. But I think that's a trade that probably will happen. But I guess we'll have to see.
I mean, for as far as Drummond's concerned, it's just going to come down to, is there a contending team that has a need for somebody like Drummond? Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean he's a center who he's playing really good this year, but you can't play him late in the game, so that hurts. That hurts his value. So it's definitely I don't know. I don't know what team. It had to be a contending team that needs a big like that who's going to start. Uh, I don't know. I'd have to go through the teams and see.
Yeah, we'll get into the All Stars though. I mean, we'll talk about. I guess we'll just start with East. I'll start with who I have as my starters. I guess just to preface before I get into it, these starters are who I have as the starters by the time the All-Star game comes around. So, like right now, I'll just go first. Right now,
Wait, are we doing it? Are we doing it by position or just 5 starters?
I was just gonna state my 2 guards and then the 3 front court on the East.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
My first guard, I have Kyrie. Right now, I would put Jaylen Brown as a starter, but by the time we actually get to the All Star game, I mean, I think things will look slightly different. So, if you made me cast my final vote right now, I think I'd probably have Irving, and I think Irving will get in as the starter over Brown. I just think, I mean, with Tatum having been out for at least some of the season, Brown's had a little bit more time to shine. And not that Brown's doesn't deserve to be a starter. He definitely does. I mean, he's having a career year and he's going off. But I think as time goes on, it'll be more evident that Irving should probably get that spot over Brown. We'll see. I mean, who's your first guard?
It's also Kyrie. I know he missed the 7 games or whatever it was, but his numbers, I think he's averaging 27 points a game. He's gonna be on one of the top teams if that matters, which it may not. But yeah, it's as long as he just doesn't miss any more games, I'd say he's probably going to be the starter. I think I agree with you on Jaylen Brown. He's having an amazing year, but as a starter, it's going to be tough for him to sneak in there. But he is having a great year.
Second guard, I have Beal. I'm assuming yours is probably the same.
Yeah.
Front court, to me, it's super hard to have anything other than this. I've got Giannis, I've got Embiid, and I've got Durant.
It's exactly what I got.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to fit anybody else in that front court.
The only question is Giannis, but if you like, that's just because his expectations are so high, but he's still averaging, I think, 27, 11, and like 6 assists or something like that. So yeah, and then obviously KD's averaging 30 points, and then Embiid's an MVP candidate. So it's pretty clear what the front court is.
Yeah, I mean, for reserves, I guess I'll just list off my reserves, and if you have anything to say about them, just chime in. I mean, my first is Harden. Uh, I'm pretty sure he'll be an all-star. I don't know if I'm assuming you're in the same boat. Sabonis is having, again, I mean, he's part of the reason how this Pacers team just gets so overlooked is he's been an overlooked person ever since that initial trade ever since the Paul George trade. I mean, he wasn't even named as like the primary thing that they even traded for. And Oladipo was definitely mentioned before Sabonis. And then, obviously off the bat, Oladipo looked a lot better than Sabonis. But I mean, Sabonis is clearly the better player. He's definitely going to be an all-star. I have Jaylen Brown in as well as a reserve. I've got Tobias Harris. I have Trae Young. I have Colin Sexton. And I have Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I probably agree with those names. I'd say Bam, you could probably throw Bam in there. He's having a great year too. I think, yeah, I mean, thinking of other names, I would say Bam's the first one that came to mind.
It's definitely ones that
I mean,
notable names I didn't put in would probably be Bam, Levine, Tatum, and Simmons.
I would say Levine out of those 4 names. I mean, I think Bam, but I say Levine could be. It's gonna be a tough case for him to be one. His numbers are great, but compared to the other guys, I don't know. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Also, I mean, there's Brogdon, there's Middleton. I mean, they're not going to be in, but I guess honorable mention. We'll see. I mean, I'm not sure if Sexton will actually be an all-star. I'm not exactly sure I'm not exactly sure what this first 20-ish games really means for Sexton. Is he going to now be like a perennial all-star type of guy? I don't think so, but if he continues to play well, I mean, he'll probably get an all-star nod. I think Tatum still has a chance to be an all-star. He's missed, I forget exactly how many games he missed because of COVID, but he missed a solid amount of games from COVID. So, if he comes back and is healthy and he's, again, the best player on that team, if he is, then you'd assume he'll also probably be an all-star. But, I mean, the East is as crowded as it's ever been, really, with how the free agency and trades have worked out over the past, few years. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, if this was any other year in the past probably like 5 years. I mean, Tatum, Bam, Levine, Simmons. I mean, they're all probably like easy all stars. But I mean, Harden, Durant coming over, the emergence of players like again like Sexton, Trey Young's new. It's shaken up the East All Star. So I mean, yeah, we'll see on those.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to go over the West or?
Yeah, I can start with the West. So for the West, I have I put it down. Where did I put it down? All right, so I've it was kind of it was between Steph Curry and Damian Lillard for who should start. Um, it's tough because I think they're really close for who should be the start. They're both going to be all stars, but I'm gonna go with Steph over Lillard. I just think the year him coming back from basically missing all of last year, and then having the year that he's having so far, and having, I mean, that team's not that good of a team, and I think they're 500, maybe like a game under, game over. That's pretty impressive considering they're just not that good of a team. So, uh, and also you look at his numbers. So I have Steph as my starter.
Yeah, I've also got Steph there as a starter.
Yeah. And then for my second guard spot, I have Luca. He's not playing as good as, like I would have thought he would have been playing. He definitely started off really slow, but he's still averaging 27 points, 10 assists, and 10 and like 9.5 rebounds. So he's basically averaging a triple double. So yeah, I mean it's kind of clear why he's a starter.
Yeah, actually, I put Dame here. Maybe it's because the Giannis effects, where it's like the expectations are super high. I mean, I was expecting Luca to compete for MVP, if not win MVP. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. I mean, he's shooting 28%, 30% from three. That's basically the reason why I kept him out of the starting lineup. So I've got Steph and Dame. But if you argue Luca, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't be too. I wouldn't bat an eye at it. I think it's definitely out of those three. You pick two of them as your starter guards, but yeah, I mean, one of them has to not make it. So
Yeah. And then for my forwards, I have I think two of them are really easy in that I have LeBron and then Nikola Jokic. I think those are obviously easy. I mean, they're both probably top three MVP candidates. And then for that last forward spot, I have Kawhi Leonard, but I almost want to put like Paul George in there because I actually think Paul George has been playing better, but I think Kawhi is going to get the starting spot over him, but I think it's pretty close.
yeah, I went Kawhi too. I definitely think Paul George can make it in. I don't think he will. I mean, Kawhi is he's at least to the general public and in general he's the better player. He's the best player on that team. Paul George is, I mean, since they've been on the same team together, he's clearly been the two. So I would assume Kawhi gets in. I still think Kawhi is the better player, even though Paul George has had a pretty solid start to the year. I think going into last year, we people were like, Paul George, he was an MVP candidate. He was a top 10 player. Going into this year, we were probably both like, George isn't there. He's probably like top 20 maybe. But I mean, I think George has clearly proved some doubters wrong, at least, the bubble doubters. He's played much better since the bubble. I mean, it's almost like it's not even the same player. I'm not exactly sure what happened in the bubble to George, but I mean, if he can play like this in the playoffs, this Clippers team is really good if they've got two top 10 ish players.
Yeah. And then for some reserves, some guys that I had uh, Donovan Mitchell. I think he'll be there. Even though Anthony Davis's numbers aren't maybe as great as you'd think, I think he'd still be an all-star this year. Um, Other guys could be, again, Paul George, like I said before. Uh, Devin Booker, I'd say he's probably an all-star this year. CP3 probably not. DeAndre Ayton probably not. Just going through the Suns there, but I don't know. I'd say those guys, and then if McCollum, I don't know if I guess McCollum's gonna be out like too long of a time for him to not be an all-star. But if he wasn't injured, then CJ McCollum definitely would be an all-star. I'm pretty sure he was averaging 27 points per game. He was really their best player before he got injured. So I don't know if he'll get in because he's been injured, but I guess we'll have to see. But if he is, then I have CJ McCollum. Um, Anyone else? I I, I can't really think of.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on Davis, Mitchell. If McCollum was not injured, yes. I've also got. I mean, I have Luke on my bench. You had him as your starter, but yeah, you have Lillard
Yeah,
on the
and then
bench.
yeah, I'd Lillard on the bench. Yeah,
I think Gobert is probably an all-star. Uh, Booker's probably an all-star. I think Shea might be an all-star.
yeah,
Uh, I think he probably will be. I mean, we'll see. Chris Paul again, yeah, probably not. I think there's a chance Zion's an all-star. I don't think he'll get
oh
in,
yeah, yeah.
but I mean, he might. I mean, actually, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
His,
He might
I
not.
mean,
I
his
think there's.
numbers are really good.
They are. I still think there's a chance. I mean, let me get the 12. I mean, so it's
Yeah,
Mitchell, the 12. Let me just get the for sure's out of the way. I mean, the starters, yes, we all got out of the way. Mitchell for sure. Either, I mean, for me, it's Doncic. For you, it's Lillard, but that's
same
two.
thing.
Paul George is three. Anthony Davis
Davis.
is four.
Yeah,
So that's up to nine.
yeah. We have 3 spots left on the bench. I'd say. I mean, yeah, counting those four as definites, I'd say Booker is going to be an all-star. I think it's. I don't know.
I'd
It's
have
kind of.
Booker over Zion. Like if I had to pick between the two for as an all star, I'd pick Booker so far.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about Zion, and then you said him. I think he probably will be an all-star. I mean, he's putting up amazing numbers. It's going to be tough for him not to be. Like if a Gobert gets in over a Zion, that's I don't know. I don't really like that.
I think there's a chance. I mean, the Jazz are the one seed in the West right now. If they continue to play like the one seed, I think it's
Yeah.
tough that they don't have two all stars. I mean, the Pelicans are what right now? I forget their exact record, but they're not even 500, right? So
Yeah, no, the Pelicans
like 6 and 10
no,
or something. But yeah, I mean, I think if the Jazz are the one seed, maybe the two, or if they're competing record wise with the Lakers and the Clippers, and they both have two All Stars, it'd be tough not to see Mitchell and Gobert there. And Gobert's not a flashy player at all, but I would have Gobert there right now. So
I
we have
mean,
the nine definites. We have Booker, Gobert, or for me, I have Booker and Gobert. So that'd be 10, 11. It Shea might be there. That would be one. I share Zion. I mean, we'll see. I think Zion probably managed again, and especially just because I mean the fan vote is what 50% of the All Star game.
it's some. It's I think it maybe 33%. Like I don't even know what they do anymore.
I mean, but with fan vote, I mean Zion's gonna get so many votes, probably more than he
Yeah.
deserves. So
Well, I mean, looking at his numbers, I mean, he's averaging 24 points, 7.5 rebounds on 59% from the field. I mean, that's pretty good.
yeah, I mean that is pretty good. I mean,
I
I'd
mean,
have to
his
compare it
defense,
again
his
to.
defense isn't great. I mean, you can kind of expect that though. No one's really looking at that. But I mean, for him to, I mean, I know he doesn't really shoot the ball from like three or like mid range, anything like that. But him to shoot 60% and shoot that many shots, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, so if Zion's in, that would be 12 for me. So my 12 would be Mitchell, Gobert, Jokic, Doncic, Lillard, George, Kawhi, Steph, LeBron, AD, Booker, and there'd be one more. That would be Shea. Did I say? I didn't say Shea, right?
I don't think so.
So that would be 12 for me. Being out of that would be McCollum, Ja would be out, Brandon Ingram would be out, CP3 would be out. So those would probably be like the quote unquote snubs. I mean, I think the only one you could legitimately argue would be like it would be McCollum for sure. You would argue that if he comes back early and plays just as well, you could definitely argue that. If Ja continues to play super well, I mean, Ja could be an all star as well, honestly. Let me check his.
Well, I don't think McCollum's going to come back. I mean, the All Star. I don't know if they're playing a game or not, but it's set for February 14th. So I think voting probably ends maybe in a week or something like that. So I don't think McCollum's going to be able to come back. I think he's out for like a month or two, but he'll be interesting because his numbers are All Star worthy. I just don't know if his games played or like going to match that, and if that. Like again, you said like it's either half or 33% are fan vote, but then the others is NBA coaches and then the players, I think it is. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he actually will be an all-star or not.
Yeah, I mean, so Jaws only played. I mean, Jaws only played 5 games, but if the All Star game isn't for what another when would the All Star? I mean, I know right now there isn't technically an All Star game.
It'd
I'm not sure.
be I said February 14th, so basically 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be an All Star, but had he not been injured,
Yeah, no, he's only
I
played 5
mean,
games.
yeah, well, yeah. I
I
think
mean,
the East is much more competitive, honestly, spots wise, than the West. Like,
well, when you lose like a Harden,
yeah,
obviously Durant, so I mean, you lose a couple people, and that kind of messes everything up.
yeah.
I mean, McCollum, he's played 13 games, so again, better. I mean, better than Ja, but still, he's not going to play any
McCollum
more
might get in though
games.
too. I mean, if
I mean, he's
the
averaging
voting
27
closed,
points.
if the voting closed, I don't know. When would the voting close?
I'm
This
not sure. I think
eighth. I
it's
mean, if it
probably
closes, if you get a week and a half to vote, 10 more days. That's what, like 4 more games maybe. I mean, there's a chance there's a chance you could argue McCollum over Shea easily. I mean, you could easily make that argument, McCollum over Shea.
yeah. I
Shea might have
mean,
more games played, but I mean, McCollum's definitely been the better player. The Blazers have a much better record, I believe. Maybe not
it's
much better,
pretty
but
similar.
definitely slightly better.
It's pretty similar, but yeah, no, that's gonna be a tough one because I mean, Shea's averaging 22 points, 5.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 50% from the field, and 38% from three. And also that team's not a good team, and he's actually having them play pretty well. So yeah, I mean that's gonna be a tough one too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
So wait, so who do you have for your reserves again?
Let me go back. Um,
Because I guess we'll check back and see. I guess because I think the East were basically the same on. So
yeah. So West. Okay, we have the same starters, but my bench is Mitchell, Shea, Gobert. Sorry, I'm skipping over the starters. Doncic, George, Booker, and Zion. That would complete my bench. That would be 12, including the starters.
and then who you left off? Who'd you leave off?
McCollum's left off.
Yeah.
That's basically all. CP3's left off. I
I
think that's
guess.
basically it from people that I've.
Yeah, I
Brandon
guess.
Ingram is not on mine.
Yeah.
Christian Wood is not.
Yeah, yeah. Christian Wood. Yeah, I didn't really think about Christian Wood. He could. I would say the two weakest. I agree with the 5 of your picks. Obviously, the 4 definites, and then I think Zion. I also think Zion's going to be an all-star too. I would say between Shea and Gobert, I think there's definitely questions. Again, if McCollum, if he can get like based on the games that he's played, if it works out and he is an all-star, I don't have a problem with that. So it depends. Like if that is going to happen, then I have McCollum as an all-star. If not, I'd probably have Shea. And then I mean with Gobert, it's just so tough because like I know he's really good defensively. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm not arguing that, but it's just like the points that he puts up. I know the impact he has on the team, but it's just tough to look at him and be like, and then you look at other guys who may have better numbers and be like, this guy's an all-star over him. I don't know. It's just tough. I mean, he's averaging 13 points. I know he's 14 rebounds. He's obviously playing great defense, everything like that. But man, it's tough to put him over some other guys with better numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that to a certain extent. I know there's not necessarily the positions thing anymore, but if you wanted to, a supporting argument for Gobert would be if I mean, obviously Jokic you have as a center on the team. Gobert is that second center, as if you're not counting AD as a center, which I'd assume you wouldn't. Those would be the two centers on the West. Not that has any that doesn't. I mean, that you don't have to have two centers, and you don't even have to have one center on the All Star team anymore now. So,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
Gobert compared to Christian Wood. I mean, Christian Wood 23.5 points, 11 rebounds, 53% from the field, 35 from three. I mean, I don't know. Because when you said him, I did forget about him, and then you
also
said him, and
Cat
I
as
was
well,
like,
by the way. But I don't think Cat's
yeah, nah. Yeah, I think no, I don't think Cat's gonna be an all star.
Christian Wood definitely has a chance.
Yeah, I think it's
Might even get
between.
in over Gobert. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he will. I think Gobert will be an All Star, but
I would say those last two spots is Shea, Gobert, Wood, and then again McCollum if like the game's play doesn't affect him that much.
Yeah, I think McCollum has a chance too, even though if he's, I mean, how many games will have, what would be the maximum amount of games played like by the time the All-Star game happens? I'm not exactly sure what it be, but if McCollum's at 60 or 70% of those games played, I mean, you can definitely argue because his numbers are so much better and he's had such a huge impact on that. I mean, he again, when McCollum was playing, he was arguably the best player on that team. So, and
Well,
Damian's a starter in some people's minds. So,
yeah. It seems like the most games played has been 20. McCollum's only played 13, and then I'd say I don't know when voting stops, but let's say they play 5 more games or 6 more
I mean,
games,
you
let's
can
say.
technically vote now, so you could definitely have McCollum in as your vote right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'd say, I mean, he'd probably miss like 10 to 15 games. I don't know. I think he'll be able to. I don't think it will affect him that much. Um, I think the fans would definitely vote. It's more up to like the players and the coaches. Like if they think that based on since he got injured, like if he actually still is an all-star or not. I don't know. I think he is, but
You're talking about McCollum?
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think there's a definite case. I mean, it's just going to completely come down to the games played. We'll see on it, but he definitely deserves to be. But yeah, I mean, that's really it for All Stars. So, I
yeah.
mean, I was looking at my preseason predictions, just like the standings, and a lot of them are not looking good right now. I mean, just quickly, I've got to rebring the document up, but I mean, right off the bat, I know 100% that Raptors prediction is absolutely atrocious, and they've played slightly better recently. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but they'll probably be between they'll probably be like a 9 or 10 seed, maybe an 8 seed or 7 seed if they're lucky. But the Mavericks are definitely still struggling. The
They'll be
Nuggets
better though.
were struggling, but now they're looking a lot better. I think the Nuggets, they're probably, I mean, I predicted them as the 1 seed. They probably won't be that, but they'll probably be like a 4 seed, maybe a 3. I mean, we'll see. I had the Jazz as a 7 seed. I mean, they're the 1 seed. They've definitely exceeded expectations. I mean, they're a well-oiled machine. I mean, Mitchell, Gobert, that team works very well together. I don't think that they're the best team in the West, not even close, but I mean, they could definitely, if they play this well in the regular season again, I mean, if they're the 1 seed, that would be an incredible feat in the Western Conference against the Lakers and the Clippers and all these other great teams. So, yeah.
Yeah, looking at mine, I mean, I think I would say the two. I mean, the one really bad one I had the Rockets. I mean, that was not a good pick when I had it. Thinking Harden's going to be there the entire year and not just completely throw away the games that he was playing in. So that was probably just bad prediction on my part. But yeah, I mean, I had the Jazz at 6. I think there's still a good possibility that they are a 5 or 6 seed. The Nuggets, I mean, they start off really bad, but they're 11-7 now, and they're in the 4 seed. So I think they could easily get back to the 1 seed. Everything else in the West is kind of the same, like Warriors 7, Blazers 8, Suns 9, Pelicans 10. That's what I had. I mean, that kind of seems like that's what it's going to be. In the East, I mean, I'd say the one team that's been really bad so far has been the Heat. They're 6-12. I had them as my 5 seed. I had the Raptors as my 6 seed, and I knew I shouldn't have put them at the 6 seed because I didn't think they were that good. They still may be able to get there. I mean, they're 7-11 now. And the 6 seed right now is Cleveland at 9-9, and I don't think anyone expects Cleveland to be the 6 seed. So I guess there's still maybe a possibility of them getting like a 6 or 7 seed. And then I had the Wizards at 7. I mean, obviously that's not going to work. But I mean, other than like maybe 3 or 4 picks, I'd say all mine seem to be trending in the right direction. I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, for as far as East and me, I mean, yeah, the Raptors are going to be much lower. The Heat, I had them as my 4 seed. Yeah, so I had the Sixers as my 6 seed. That's pretty low. I mean, they're probably going to be anywhere between 1 to 3, I'd assume.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, for the most part, everything's looking fine. I mean, I don't know. I did just list off 3 of the basically 8 teams. So, I mean, that's not the best, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's basically everything unless you have anything else to say.
No, I mean that's it. Yeah. There's nothing really else.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you stayed to the end, thanks for watching. Drop a like or whatever if this is on YouTube. Social media is everything in the description, Twitters, Instagrams, all that. We'll be definitely covering the Super Bowl, probably starting sometime Sunday or Monday, I'd assume. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for the Super Bowl. I think this Super Bowl might end up being, it has the potential to be like the best Super Bowl ever. I mean, I don't know if it'll actually end up being that, but it's got that potential to be like an Eagles Patriots or a Patriots Seahawks or Pats Falcons or like a Steelers Cardinals type of Super Bowl where it's just back and forth in a super exciting game all the way to the finish.
Yeah, it's
I don't think
definitely
it's
going to
going to be a
be.
blowout. I don't think it will be a blowout.
I think there's a chance of a blowout. I don't think it'll happen, but I think there's definitely a chance because again, we'll talk about this next week. But the Bucks offense, they're really hit or miss. So, it seems like they've been really good these last couple weeks, but there's always a couple times where they just do nothing offensively. So I guess we'll have to see. But I think it'll be a really good Super Bowl too.
Yeah, I mean, very, very quickly, it's Brady. I don't think Brady would ever let himself get blown out. I know that like kind of sounds stupid, but I don't think they'll get blown out. We'll see though. We'll see. I mean, every Super Bowl Brady's played has been down to the wire. So
I feel like it could be.
except for maybe the Rams one, but
I
even
feel
then,
like it could be almost exactly what happened when they played in the regular season with the Chiefs like jumping out early and they're kind of controlling the game, and then the Bucks come back, and then maybe they come back and win. I think it'll kind of be like that if it's not close throughout the entire game.
it could be. It's again. I mean, there's no way Hill goes for 250 yards and two
No,
touchdowns.
no, I mean not that, but I'm saying like I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs, if you look up, the Chiefs are up like 28-10, something like that. Like they're just up by by like 3 possessions. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, if the Chiefs are able, whatever, we'll get into it and we'll pause it and get into it next week. But we'll be
Yeah.
back around Sunday, Monday ish. Uh, yeah,